Enough Canadian voters finally were willing to give, after a break of almost 22 years, a chance to the Progressive Conservatives to govern them federally in the Canadian federal parliamentary elections of June the 10th, 1957. In 1956, George Drew had resigned, frustrated by his inability to win a federal parliamentary election, and John Diefenbaker had replaced him. Since Diefenbaker was already 61 years old at the time, at least according to the English language Wikipedia, many progressive conservatives expected him to be just a short-term interim leader after whom they could elect a clearly younger leader, but this didn't turn out to be the case. The number of seats was raised to 265. 74.1% of the eligible Canadian voters turned out. Although they still lost the popular vote to the Liberals, the Progressive Conservatives were a lot luckier in the distribution of votes and thus were able to gain a plurality of seats. 112 seats to be more specific, or to be precise, while the Liberals dropped to 105 seats. The Conservatives received 38.5% of the popular vote, or about 2,573,000, while the Liberals took 40.5% of the vote, or about 2,703,000. The Cooperative Commonwealth Federation gained 2 more seats, rising to 25 seats, but continued its decline in popular vote, dropping to 10.6%, or 708,000. The social creditors were able to secure 6.6% of the popular vote, or about 437,000, and to rise to 19 seats. The aged Prime Minister Louis Saint-Laurent, who was then 75 years old, technically could have clung to power by making deals with one or more of the opposition parties, well, especially the CCF, for a so-called budget and confidence agreement. However, he decided that since the Liberals had lost the election in terms of the number of elected members of the House of Commons, it was the appropriate thing for him to resign and to allow John Diefenbaker to be appointed as the new Prime Minister. Diefenbaker then capitalized on his early popularity and on the very clumsy first major speech given by the man who would replace Louis Saint-Laurent, Lester Pearson, in which he claimed that Canada's economic problems were so great, Canada had entered a recession, or was about to enter a recession, that only the Liberals, with their much longer experience in federal government, were qualified to solve them, and he therefore called on Prime Minister Diefenbaker to resign and to hand over the Prime Ministership to him without a new election. Diefenbaker mocked Pearson for that speech and then dug up a confidential report by the outgoing Liberal government before the 1957 federal parliamentary elections, which showed that the economic situation had actually turned out to be worse than the Liberals claimed it to be during their election campaign. Diefenbaker had the parliament promptly resolved and a new federal parliamentary election called early next year, or early the following year. Let's see. Yeah, a total of 4 parliamentarians were elected with political affiliations other than the ones mentioned. A total of about 6,681,000 votes were given, including 75,000 votes that were rejected as either blank or spoiled.